The sun was sinking low over the wide Dakota plains, turning the tall grass into waves of gold and crimson. The wind carried dust, silence, and sorrow. Along the horizon walked a man, barefoot, weary, and clutching a small bundle to his chest. He was Lakota, a warrior once strong, now just a shadow of who he'd been. His name was Tasunka, and the bundle in his arms was all he had left of love and life. His baby girl, Winyin. Her breathing was faint, her lips pale. She hadn't cried for hours, and that frightened him more than any bullet or blade ever could. 3 days he had walked, with no food, no water, and no hope except for the sound of her heartbeat. Now, as the last light bled from the sky, he saw a small settlement ahead. White Creek, a handful of wooden houses, a saloon, and smoke curling from a few chimneys. Civilization. Maybe mercy. He stumbled through the dirt street, past men who stopped and stared. A Lakota warrior in their town? They spat curses under their breath and reached for guns. But Tasunka didn't even look at them. He was past pride. He came to a small white ranch house on the edge of town. A woman stood outside, hanging laundry, her face lined by sun and sadness. Her name was Evelyn Harper, a widow who had buried her husband 2 winters ago when raiders burned half the valley. She lived alone now, with 2 cows, a few chickens, and ghosts that spoke louder than neighbors. When she saw him, tall, fierce, and wild-eyed, she froze. Her first instinct was fear. "What do you want here?" she called out, her voice trembling but firm. Tasunka raised his hand slowly, the way a man does when he wants to show the world he means no harm. "Milk," he whispered. "My baby, she needs milk." Evelyn frowned. "You should go to the store in town. She will die before I reach it," he said. His voice cracked as he held out the child. "Please, just a little milk." Her eyes fell on the baby, tiny, wrapped in deer hide, too still. For a heartbeat, Evelyn saw not an enemy, not a Lakota, but a child. She hesitated, then disappeared inside her home. When she returned, she held a tin cup of milk. Tasunka tried to feed the baby, but Winyin's lips barely moved. She was too weak. The milk spilled from the corners of her mouth. He dropped to his knees, shaking. "She cannot drink," he said. "Please, help her. Your mother, please." The word mother broke something inside Evelyn. Her hands trembled. Memories of her own child, born still years ago, flashed through her mind. She looked down at the fragile baby, then back at the desperate man. Without a word, she gently took the baby from his arms, sat down on the porch steps, and unbuttoned her dress. She pressed the infant to her breast. For a long moment, there was silence. Then a faint sound, small and miraculous. The baby began to suckle. Tears filled Evelyn's eyes. "There, little one," she whispered. "You're safe now." Tasunka bowed his head to the ground. His voice broke into his native tongue. "Wakantanka, you sent her. Great Spirit, you sent this woman." That night, Evelyn couldn't send them away. The baby was too fragile, and the man too broken. She lit the hearth and told him he could sleep in the barn. "Just until she's stronger," she said. "If there's trouble, you leave before dawn." He nodded, grateful beyond words. Days passed. Evelyn fed the baby every few hours, rocking her by the fire, singing soft hymns. Tasunka watched from the doorway, silent, his eyes filled with something between awe and heartbreak. Each day, the child grew stronger. Color returned to her cheeks, and one morning she laughed, a small, gurgling sound that made both adults freeze in wonder. "She looks like you," Evelyn said softly. "But her eyes, they're gentle." "She has her mother's eyes," Tasunka replied. "Her mother died, giving her life." Evelyn's throat tightened. "I lost my husband to a raid. Sometimes I think I died that day too." They didn't speak after that, but something unspoken passed between them, a shared understanding of grief that no words could bridge. By the end of the week, the whispers began. White Creek was a small place, and small towns thrive on suspicion. "The widow's keeping a savage in her barn," they said. "She's lost her mind, feeding his child." When Evelyn rode into town for flour and oil, people stared. Old Mrs. Dugan sneered. "You'll regret it, Evelyn Harper. That man's kind killed settlers, killed our men." Evelyn straightened her back, trembling but unyielding. "And how many of his people were killed for the land we took?" "A hungry child isn't the enemy, Mrs. Dugan." She rode home in silence, fighting tears. That night, she found Tasunka outside, carving something from bone. "They hate me for helping you," she said quietly. He didn't look up. "They hate what they do not understand. I once did too." He finished the carving, a small eagle with wings spread, and handed it to her. "For courage," he said. "You have more than most warriors." The days grew colder. A storm came sweeping down from the north, a wall of snow and wind that swallowed the horizon. By nightfall, Evelyn's cows froze in the pen, and the roof began to leak. The baby whimpered, cold seeping in her tiny bones. Tasunka broke apart furniture to keep the fire alive. When the last log burned out, he wrapped his daughter tightly and handed her to Evelyn. "Keep her warm," he said. "I will find more wood." "You'll die out there," she cried. He smiled faintly. "I have walked with winter before." He stepped out into the storm, disappearing into the white. Hours passed. The wind howled through the cracks. Evelyn sat by the dying fire, praying to her God and to the great spirit she'd heard Tasunka whisper to. Finally, the door burst open. Tasunka stumbled in, half frozen, dragging an armful of wood. His skin was blue with cold. She caught him as he fell. "Stay with me," she pleaded. "You've done enough." He tried to speak, but his voice failed. She laid him by the fire, pressing warm cloths to his chest. The baby cried softly between them, her tiny hands reaching for warmth. Evelyn held them both through the night. The storm raged on, but inside, a fragile peace was born. When morning came, the world outside was silent and white. But the quiet didn't last. From a distance came the sound of horses. 5 riders approached. Men from town, rifles glinting in the pale light. At their head rode Sheriff Collins, a man hardened by years of fear. He reined in his horse by the porch. "Evelyn Harper," he called. "We know you've been hiding a hostile Indian. Step aside." Evelyn stepped outside, the baby in her arms. "He's no threat," she said. "He saved us both." The sheriff's eyes narrowed. "You think you could decide that? That man's people kill my brother." From behind her, Tasunka appeared, weak but standing tall. "I fought before peace came," he said. "I fight no more. I only wish for my child to live." The sheriff raised his gun. "Then surrender yourself, or I'll." Evelyn stepped between them, eyes blazing. "If you shoot him, you'll shoot me too. And this child, she's innocent of your hate." The wind stilled. Snowflakes fell between them like ash. For a long moment, no one moved. Then one of the riders muttered, "Ain't worth it, Sheriff. Let's go." The sheriff hesitated, then lowered his gun. "You're making a mistake, Evelyn. The world won't forgive you for this." She met his gaze. "Then I'll forgive it for them." They rode away, leaving only the echo of hooves fading into the white. Tasunka sank to his knees. "You protected me," he said softly, "as I could not protect my wife. How do I repay this?" Evelyn knelt beside him. "You already did. You reminded me what love is." Spring arrived late, but it came. The snow melted, grass rose again, and with it came laughter, the sound of a baby chasing chickens across the yard. Tasunka rebuilt fences, repaired the roof, and worked beside Evelyn as if he'd always been part of her life. One afternoon, as Evelyn was hanging laundry, the baby toddled over and tugged at her dress, babbling a single word, "Mama." Evelyn froze. Tears welled up as she lifted the little girl into her arms. "Yes, sweetheart," she whispered. "Mama's here." From a distance, Tasunka watched silently. His eyes shone with pride, gratitude, and something deeper, acceptance. Weeks later, a letter arrived for Evelyn. It was from her sister in Virginia. "My dear Evie," it read, "you've been alone long enough. Come home, leave that barren land, and start anew." She read it aloud to Tasunka as they sat on the porch. He said nothing for a long time, staring at the fields. "You should go," he finally said. "You deserve peace." "This is peace," she replied. "Here, with you with her. This is my home now." He looked at her, uncertain. "Your people will not accept us." "Then we'll make our own people," she said softly. Years passed. The world around them changed. Railroads came, settlers moved west. But at the edge of the plains, a Lakota man, a white woman, and a little girl lived quietly, tending their land. Sometimes riders passing through would stop, puzzled by the sight. A warrior mending fences beside a pale-haired woman. A child with skin kissed by both their bloodlines laughing in the sun. They'd whisper, "That's the Harper place." Strange folk, but good people. At night, when the stars burned bright over the prairie, Evelyn would hum old lullabies as the little girl slept. Tasunka would sit by the fire, carving small figures from wood, eagles, horses, faces of memory, and whisper to the flames. "Wakantanka, thank you. You took one family and gave me another." And sometimes, Evelyn would place her hand on his and whisper back, "We were both lost until love found us." In the silence that followed, there was no sound of war, no whisper of hate. Only the gentle breathing of a child who had been saved by mercy, and 2 hearts that had chosen to heal the world in the only way they knew how, by loving beyond the lines that divided it.